Alright folks, when I'm wrong, I can admit I'm wrong about something, and tonight I'm going to be talking about something I was wrong about, something I was told by many people that my opinion was wrong, and I needed to go back and take another look at it, and that is the Marvel title, Star Wars Darth Vader. This is of the new canon, something that started earlier in the year, and I started reading it early on when it first came out and kind of got lost in it, got confused, got frustrated, gave up, and a lot of people were telling me, no, go back and read it because it's actually what some people feel is their favorite of the new Marvel Star Wars books that have come out. So that's what I did, folks. I went back, reread it, actually just finished reading it before I'm recording this episode, so it's all fresh in my mind, and I am going to speak to it tonight. And what I'm going to be speaking about is the first arc in the title. It's actually the first 6 issues, and this book is created by Kieran Gillen and Salvador Larroca, and I'll admit that might have been what was part of my initial turn-off of this book. Kieran Gillen, a writer known for a comic by the name of Phonogram. This is a book that I tried to read a long time ago. Subject matter I just couldn't care less about, and just didn't really understand his style of writing. Salvador Larroca, I don't have any personal issues with him. He's an artist primarily known for X-Men. I don't read X-Men comics, so I really didn't have much of a familiarity with him, but I did take some issue with him early on with the Darth Vader book. Something that JP and I probably talked about early on was how we thought that his artwork was too close to the movies. In particular, there's a scene early on in the book where Vader is going to visit Jabba the Hutt, and it felt like to us that Vader standing before Jabba was very similar to Luke standing before Jabba in Return of the Jedi, to the point where a lot of the background creatures looked like they were the exact same background creatures that were there when Luke was there in Return of the Jedi. And this book is supposed to take place right after A New Hope. So years later, the same creatures are still standing there. It just seemed a little far-fetched. Also, some of the ways, the angles that Jabba was drawn on, it was just, I don't know, it was laughably embarrassing. I know Jabba's not the easiest character probably to draw, but still, it was bad. So I lost hope with this book early on. I wasn't really, nothing was really grabbing me. One of the other reasons I think is it was so tied to the other title at the beginning of this book, the actual Star Wars title. Seemed like the two storylines were just kind of woven together, and it's like, okay, a lot of things in my mind I felt they were repeating from one book to the next. So, you know, like I said, I lost hope early on, and taking it all in now, I read the 6 issues all in a row, got the full story of the first arc, and got what was going on, and where it starts and where it ends is a nice complete story. So let me tell you what that is. Basically, what's going on is Vader is being demoted for his failure at the first Death Star blowing up. The Emperor is not happy with him. He gets demoted, is actually reporting to Taggy, who was actually on the Death Star. He was in that conference room when Tarkin is talking to everyone. He's kind of the one with the Mo from the Three Stooges looking haircut, and he actually escaped the Death Star, apparently, and Vader now has to report to him. Meanwhile, Vader is off kind of working on his own, and that's kind of really what's going on in this entire arc, is Vader is working behind the backs of the Empire and of the Emperor himself. He has a lot of distrust with what's going on in the book, as the Emperor has a lot of distrust in Vader. Turns out what's going on is Vader is building an army. He's building a droid army. He's also hiring bounty hunters to figure out who this rebel pilot was that blew up the Death Star. And he hires another bounty hunter, a Wookiee, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but he hires him to track down this mysterious character that the Emperor was talking to right after he has a meeting with Vader, and then this guy shows up, and the Emperor won't tell him who he is. So, Vader's distrust in what's going on. He hires this other bounty hunter. So they go off and they kind of have their own adventures that aren't really happening in this book. We're really focusing on Vader. So Vader goes on a couple missions on his own, ends up being attacked by some repurposed battle droids that the rebels have kind of repurposed, and this really sets off in Vader's head that he needs to build a droid army, and he needs to track down who kind of refurbished these battle droids, and that's where we get a new character, a very interesting character by the name of Dr. Aphra. Now, Dr. Aphra is a female, which is great, a female hero in the Star Wars universe. We always need more of those. And she's introduced in the book in a very interesting way. Her introduction is almost shot for shot a take on the opening scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark, where Indiana Jones is kind of avoiding all the booby traps in the temple that he's in, and the big rolling sphere rock is rolling towards him. That scene is almost mirrored exactly in this book. And Dr. Aphra is being chased by the battle droids. One of them is a sphere shape, and it's kind of rolling towards her, and she's running after it. It's almost, the pose of her is almost a direct lift from Indiana Jones. So that was interesting, and she is also an archaeologist in this. Now, I'm not entirely sure what that means, an archaeologist in the Star Wars universe. To me, she's, as the book moves on, it seems like she's more interested in droid technology and hacking and somewhat of a bounty hunter. So not entirely sure what the archaeologist title means in Star Wars, but she's very good at kind of reactivating these battle droids. And this is where two more new characters come in. She reactivates two droids. One is called 000, and the other one is called BT-1. And these are literally evil version of C-3PO and R2-D2. The C-3PO, the 000, is basically a silver protocol droid, and he is not programmed in protocol and etiquette. He is programmed in torture. And BT-1 is kind of this astromech droid that is, I guess he's just out for destruction. I'm not entirely sure, but essentially they're literally evil versions of our two lovable droids. And they're kind of, throughout the book, they're kind of still there for comic relief, but in a more sadistic way, I guess. They seem to be Vader's droids, but I guess they're actually Dr. Aphra's. I'm not entirely sure how that works out, but apparently they're Dr. Aphra's, but they're kind of hanging around with Vader. Anyway, Vader and Aphra and the two droids, they go off to Geonosis, and they're basically trying to kind of do a heist to get a droid factory, a droid building machine. Now, the last time we saw Geonosis in the movies was in Attack of the Clones. We've since been there in the Clone Wars, and Geonosis in this book is kind of portrayed as a planet that's been ravaged by the war. Basically, instead of the battle droids or the Geonosians attacking the Vader and his team, when they land on this planet, they're attacked by these battle droids that are part mechanical and part organic. And that's because the Geonosis Queen that we've actually seen in the Clone Wars she's kind of lost her mind, and she's now sterile and can't actually produce more organic Geonosians. So somehow she's creating these half organic, half mechanical droids. But anyway, Vader ends up destroying her and getting the droid making machine, which is interesting because in the Clone Wars, I feel like Anakin and Obi-Wan were on this planet and dealt with this queen before, and they dealt with her in a more pacifistic way. And here Vader comes in. Now, Anakin is no longer Vader. He's, truly on the dark side. He just comes in, doesn't really have a problem taking care of her. He just kind of deals with her, with the dark side of the Force, and she is no match for him. Anyway, this is like the third issue in the story arc. The Wookiee bounty hunter comes back, and he has now this mysterious figure that the Emperor was talking to early on that Vader was suspicious about. And I initially thought that this character was going to be tied to The Force Awakens, that this was going to be maybe Max von Sydow's character in a younger form in this book, but I don't think that's the case. It turns out that his character is called Dr. Silo 4, and he is kind of, I guess he's like an android. He's part human, mostly cybernetic, and he's able to kind of transfer his being from body to body if he dies, and which he does. He gets tortured by 000 and killed by this droid as 000 is trying to get information out of him. But the information he did get out of him was basically where this silo is from. They go to his fleet, which is this very organic looking fleet. It seems very much not like Star Wars, but whatever. But Vader ends up being attacked as he's invading this fleet by a couple of twin lightsaber users. Not Force users, but lightsaber wielding figures. And their names are Morit and Aolin. And as it turns out, we find out that the Emperor is kind of behind this the entire time. The Emperor has hired this Dr. Silo guy to basically create these technically enhanced warriors as a replacement for Vader. Should Vader kind of fail the Emperor, he has a replacement, not apprentice. They say not apprentice, but I guess just kind of a right-hand man, or a team of right-hand men to replace Vader should Vader fail, and which is, I mean, honestly, what the Emperor ends up doing is he makes pretty much a point of saying to Vader that, look, you've kind of failed me ever since I rescued you on Mustafar. You were named Darth Vader, and then you go off and epically lose this battle with Obi-Wan Kenobi. You lose your legs, you lose your arm, you're burnt. I have to go and fix you, and then I create the Death Star, and you go and botch that up too. So like the Emperor's like almost straight out telling Vader, look, you're kind of a failure and a fuck up, and I, if I need to, I'm going to replace you at any time. And if it's going to be with this team of cybernetically enhanced beings, then so be it. I win either way. If you conquer them, fine, then you're the best. If they conquer you, fine, they're the best. Like, it's a win-win situation for the Emperor, and it's like basically the Emperor's like telling Vader, look, shape up or ship out. I'm just gonna I need to take care of the situation. So, the book kind of ends with Vader kind of being tested, fighting this group of enhanced warriors. They're a weird bunch. Like I said, there's the twins that have lightsabers. I don't really know if they don't look like they have any kind of cybernetics on them, but according to this Dr. Silo guy, they do. There's also a Trandoshan. The Trandoshans are the Bosk creatures. I don't think he's called out by name, but he's, he has flipper hands, so I'm not sure how great he is with wielding a lightsaber. We also have a character by the name of Toulon, who looks basically like a cross between a mad scientist and an Imperial. He's got an Imperial uniform on, but has weird kind of magnified eye lenses or of some sort. She's more of a scientist than a warrior. We have another character, Commander Carbon, who's a Moncal, basically the same race as Admiral Akbar. And this is one of those instances where you can kind of roll your eyes at this book, because it's a character with the Admiral Akbar head, but he has a General Grievous body. So he's also been cybernetically enhanced. He's almost has the exact same body that General Grievous has. Has the 4 arms, is wielding 4 lightsabers. Dr. Silo actually points out that he was very much inspired by General Grievous, and that this is General Grievous 2.0. So, Vader kind of fights them, and, the battle doesn't really go anywhere. It just is like, the Emperor's like, okay, enough of this. And, kind of takes Vader off to the side and, finally tells Vader, look, I know what you're doing. I know that you're building a private army behind my back. I know that you're kind of a failure, and I've been watching you, and this is how it is, so deal with it. So, Vader kind of is like, ends this book like, okay, I guess I've been put in my place. And then finally, the icing on the cake, Boba Fett shows up. Boba Fett, who earlier in this arc bragged that he never fails. He comes back, tells Vader that he did fail, that he was not able to bring in this rebel pilot. Now, this battle between Boba Fett and Luke Skywalker actually happened in the other book, Star Wars, the Star Wars title called Star Wars. But what we see is, Boba Fett coming back to Vader and saying, "Look, I didn't get the rebel pilot. Sorry, dude." And Vader's like, "Well, great, you failed me. Even though you told me you weren't going to fail me, you did." And he's like, "Well, I got his name." And Vader's like, "Oh, what's his name?" And he's like, "Oh, it's Skywalker." Boba Fett just throws out Skywalker. I had to scratch my head there and think back to the Clone Wars show. Did Boba Fett ever encounter Anakin Skywalker? Does he know the name Skywalker ever? So my guess is he didn't. I'm not gonna be 100% sure of that, but my guess is Boba Fett, a young Boba Fett, never encountered Anakin Skywalker, so he doesn't really know the name Skywalker, so he just kind of nonchalantly says Skywalker to Vader, and obviously Vader knows that name very well. So Vader, kind of to show his anger, he's standing on the bridge of a Star Destroyer, and the windows start to crack with his rage, which I thought was a great way to kind of introduce the idea that this is where Vader first learns that his son, or his offspring, is alive. We see flashbacks to him thinking about Padme throughout the book. We see, when he goes to Geonosis, he has flashbacks to his time there. He has flashbacks to when he's on Mustafar, and he even has flashbacks to when the Emperor has, kind of created him using all the mechanical parts, saving him from Mustafar, of the Emperor lying to Vader. Basically, Vader now knows that his Padme died, but his offspring didn't. So this is, again, more distrust in this book. Vader now realizes that he is justified to kind of creating this droid army behind the Emperor's back because, look, there's a lot of things going on behind Vader's back that he shouldn't be aligning himself with the Emperor. But anyway, I thought that having gotten through this book, I thought that it was a good book. It's a good arc. There are 2 more issues already out into the second arc. I'm going to save those until the second arc finishes up. I'm not going to even bother trying to read those because the style of the writing, it's just easier to read it all in one complete arc than to try to, at least for me, to figure it out monthly by monthly, figure out what's going on. I'm going to continue on with the book, but it won't be until the second arc is over with. So that being said, I just want to kind of throw out some interesting things that I got from this first arc that I thought was interesting. To me, I feel like this definitely is tied more to the Clone Wars era than it is to the original trilogy, which is good. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think that it's great that we see Vader still kind of clinging to the idea of battle droids instead of stormtroopers. I think that that's a resource that Vader would kind of gravitate towards, since the stormtroopers, clone troopers, have now been appropriated by the Empire. Vader would kind of turn to the other side and be like, look, I was always good with droids, so maybe a droid army would be something I'd have an affinity for. So this Aphra character. So Vader's last dealings with a young female was everyone's favorite, Ahsoka Tano. So now we have an Aphra. I don't know if that's her first name or last name. We just know it's Aphra, and she seems to be another rambunctious female in Vader's life. Vader is kind of the strong silent type throughout this book, and she's always probing him, asking him personal questions, and he's kind of always tries to play it off a bit. They have an amusing little relationship in this book. She basically knows that by working with him, she's kind of signed her death warrant. That at any point Vader could just become unhappy with her and kill her, and she knows it. And she basically tells him, "Look, if you're gonna kill me, just do it quick. A lightsaber through the neck, please." But I, reading between the lines in this book, felt like, without knowing a lot of motivations about this character, Aphra, I felt like she may have a crush on Vader. I think that might be it. I think that she's kind of infatuated with this guy, and I'm always waiting, like, at any point is she just going to full on kiss him, because the way she's drawn, you can kind of see that she has a little bit of a little something for Vader. So obviously Vader, he's hasn't really ever been really that great with the ladies, so he probably is not catching on to her hints at affection. But I thought that she was possibly crushing on Vader a bit. So another thing I thought was interesting was the ship that Vader flies around in, Padme's. He's flying around in Padme's silver vessel, and it's like, okay, that's weird and creepy, right? But it kind of makes sense too. That's Vader's ship now. They never really reference what happened to that ship, but apparently Vader now has it. I don't even know how that works. Like, Mustafar happens. How does Obi-Wan get off of Mustafar? Does he take that ship? I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna have to kind of map this out and figure it out. But apparently, Vader is flying around in Padme's Naboo silver ship. I think possibly she had 2 different silver ships. Didn't she have a different silver ship in the second and third movie than she did from the first movie? I'm not entirely sure. Have to go back and watch those. But anyway, Vader's flying around in her ship. So the tests, the Emperor is truly testing Vader, and I thought that this was very reminiscent of the Darth Plagueis book, where Plagueis is kind of always testing Palpatine, seeing if he's a worthy successor, so this is definitely a very, Sith tactics at play here, which, again, great. I like that they're tying it all back, tying it together. At this point, can we just all basically assume that Darth Plagueis, the book, is canon? Because there's so much of it that's just kind of in play here that I don't see how that could not be canon. So I'm just going to kind of throw this out here and say, look, SW Dog, we're saying Darth Plagueis the novel is canon. So then we have the issue with these cybernetic characters. When I first saw them, especially the Mon Cal with the Darth Grievous body, I was just like, kind of roll my eyes at this a little. I was like, is this too hokey for the Star Wars universe? Is this something that would actually be in a movie? And then one of the cybernetic characters, I think it was Silo, actually points out that Vader is more machine than man, and I was like, oh, well, great. They just totally made it work by pointing out that one of the main characters has always been cybernetic. So there you have it. I guess cybernetic beings are not hokey in the Star Wars universe. So, like I said early on about this book, I didn't care for the artwork. As it goes on, definitely improves. Definitely, I think Salvador LaRocca, I think he just gets more relaxed as he goes. Like, he's more relaxed in drawing these characters, that he can draw them without constantly referencing the movies. So, like, I think that the book, the artwork is a lot better as it goes. The style is still very photorealistic, a little bit too realistic for my taste in comic books, but I was never like, once I got past that first couple issues, I was never like, oh, this is, this scene from Return of the Jedi, or, oh, this is this scene from, Attack of the Clones, or whatever. Unless they were flashing back to a specific scene, I thought that the artwork was fairly original and didn't feel like it was just kind of ripping off the movies. So there you go. It redeems itself as it goes on. All right, one last thing, and this is kind of a silly one, but the last scene, Vader finds out that the pilot's name is Skywalker. He's on the bridge of the Star Destroyer, and through his rage, his dark side rage, the windows start to crack, which we actually see played out in both books. We see it played out in Darth Vader, and we also see it played out in Star Wars. So I think it's played out a slightly different angles or whatever. My question is, how do you replace a window of a Star Destroyer in space? Like, obviously, repairmen are going to have to come in. We've seen windows being replaced in Attack of the Clones, but that's not in space. So, do they have to, like, evacuate the bridge and, like, turn off air supplies? How does this work? Like, that's what I'm most curious about, is, like, that window's not going to hold through, like, hyperspace or something. How do you fix that window? Is there special contractors for this stuff? I don't know. But anyway, folks, that's my take on Marvel's Darth Vader, at least the first arc. I think it's actually being called Book 1 of Darth Vader. Thumbs up. I liked it. I definitely liked where it went. I take back my initial thoughts of this book. I'm glad that I was told by many fans to reread it, actually give it more of a chance, because decent thumbs up. So I don't know if it's my favorite of the book of the Marvel books, but I'm definitely going to stick with it. Like I said, I'm probably going to save up some issues and read them at once instead of trying to follow it monthly. But there you go. This has been I jumped right into the show. Didn't even say who I was, folks. This is Delusions of Granular. My name is Ron. Every week we get granular about a different topic of Star Wars. This week it was Marvel's Darth Vader. Next week, who knows? Something else. You can find all of our episodes at delusionsofgranular.com. You can also find us on iTunes and Stitcher. You can also contact us. Leave us an email, voicemail, follow us, whatever. Facebook, Twitter, call, email. The email is swdog77@gmail.com. Phone number is 651-337-9364. Call us. Give us feedback, give us ideas for shows, give us anything. We promise we will get back to you, use it, whatever. This show is not just about me yakking at you, it's about all of us. So, folks, until next time, stay granular. Thanks.